Hey guys and gals, this is Hayden Farrar, the producer of I Know This Guy. Make sure to visit iknowthisguy.com, where you can find blogs, show notes, transcripts of all the episodes, and even a slick selection of merch. I'm really pushing to get I Know This Guy dog bibs up there, so make sure to check back for that soon. If you're feeling super generous, you can even buy us a coffee through Patreon. Check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/iknowthisguy. Thanks so much for your continued support. The show really wouldn't exist without you. And that's enough of me. Now for the rest of the show.
I was living in this hell that I couldn't see a way out of, and I was trying to get a solution for, and every day just seemed like hell. So it was just focusing on small things that I was grateful for that got me through.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of I Know This Guy, the podcast where we dive deep into the lives of some of the most interesting people I know. Before we get started, please like and subscribe to I Know This Guy wherever you get your podcasts. By the way, my kids want me to say something about ringing a bell. What the hell's a bell?
So, Dad, who do we have on the podcast today?
We have an amazing lady. Do you remember Sylv, the lingerie expert?
Yeah, of course I do.
I thought you would. Anyways, this is the person that she recommended, and her name's Anna Davidson. And incredible lady. Came from the corporate world, became an entrepreneur, went through hell with her marriage. Anyway, she's going to get into all of that.
Amazing. Well, can't wait to hear about it. Let's dive right in.
For sure. Yeah, I'd really like to get in, what makes Anna Anna? Can you kind of go back and give us some of your back history?
Yeah, I mean, I spent a lot of time working in the corporate world for many years. We were just sort of touching on it a little bit earlier about how I was a northern girl. I was born in the north of England, near Manchester, and went off to uni and did science. In fact, I laugh now because I was wanting to find the cure for HIV. That was my biggest thing. And then when I started working kind of volunteering in labs, I realized it's going to take me a long time to find the cure. People are running around the labs finding, it just wasn't for me. It just wasn't for me. That I've got, I'm a real people person. So being sort of in a lab kind of just wasn't really for me. But even though the work that I was doing was really interesting. So I did microbiology, and then I was given an opportunity to work in the pharmaceutical industry. And it was probably actually at the time, having left uni, being very poor, with the pull of the pharmaceutical industry that was very rich, and being given a company car and flash bonuses, big, being tempted by that carrot on the string, really. But thought, well, actually, I could be out there meeting people and talking about different medicines, and I've obviously can use my degree, really. So I had a lot of experience in the corporate world. It was good fun. I learned a lot. I think it's made me very anti-drugs rather than, some people that have worked in that industry, love medication. I'm very sort of holistic now with medication. Like my children don't really take any drugs unless it's really, really needed.
Okay, can you back up on that? Because I'm really interested to hear why there was a 180.
I think it was like a lot of the conversations that I had with healthcare professionals, that everything is a risk-benefit scenario. And I think sometimes there's this culture, especially in the UK, and I'm not sure what it's like anywhere else in the world. It's probably similar, that, you go to the doctors, you're ill, and then you get a medication, when actually people should be treated very holistically, with the fact that taking a drug is going to also have a negative effect on something in your body. And so really a drug or medication should be taken as a last resort. And a lot of the time it doesn't actually cure the problems. It's just managing the symptoms, especially like with pain medications and things like that. And before you know it, you could be on lots of different medications, and they've all, each of those medications, you're going to weigh out the risk, benefit, the side effects and things like that. For me, I think people too easily take medications when actually you should have the mindset that it should be when it's really, really needed, because they have a benefit, but there's also a risk in taking, putting that chemical in your body.
I lived in Kona, Hawaii for about 5 years, and there's probably more naturopaths than there's probably 3 naturopaths to every person on that island. But it actually was a great experience, because you got to experience something outside of medicine, where I normally would go to a doctor and expect that I'd get a pill for that or a pill for this. And I went and started going to different holistic healers. It went from Reiki all the way down the line. It was interesting, because if I would have come back to Toronto, or where I'm in a small farm town, and I would have gone to my neighbor and said, you know what, I had EMDR and I had Reiki and they didn't touch me, but I really did kind of feel much better, they would have thought I was just making it up, or it was all psychosomatic or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Your health it's about what you eat, isn't it? It's about how you take care of yourself, and whether you work out or just take your health seriously, rather than taking medication as like I say, managing the symptoms rather than finding what the root cause of the problem is.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, there's some medication that's needed if you're in an emergency situation. I'm not saying that I would refuse medication for me and my children, but it's just always weighing up what that risk benefit scenario is. And I also had a real eye opener into the pharmaceutical world as well. And I've got to be careful, because I remember when I left pharmaceutical company, I had to sign it wasn't an NDA as such, but it was agreement. I can't remember how many years that was for, so I'm going to be careful when I'm talking about the industry. But I think it's changed a lot, because they were always accused of bribery, and so we were very regulated in what we could and couldn't do. Whereas a lot of industries, you can take your clients out and supposed to take them for a meal, and there is that kind of, not bribery as such, but you're entertaining clients, whereas we weren't allowed to do that kind of thing. I think in the very early days, probably in the 70s, that kind of thing was happening, but it is a very regulated industry. But I do think that there's a lot of medications that do the same thing, and actually it's whichever pharmaceutical company has the most budget behind it that is going to be the winner, really. And the marketing that they do, when actually there's not that much difference between them, but it's whichever one is at the forefront of the medical professional's mind, or maybe whichever one has sponsored possibly a clinical trial or something that's happening in their environment. So it gave me an eye opener into that as well.
When I think of what you were just talking about, it might be because one person has more money, or it might be political, whatever. I always think of beta and VHS. So the old days, beta was a much better quality product, and yet VHS took over the market because he had so much money. So you probably see a lot of beta and VHS competition in your world, right?
Yeah. And I think I learned a lot about marketing, really, which helped me, because it was predominantly sales environment that I was in. But you can see how, because I'd worked for a smaller company and then a larger company, so seeing the difference between that gave me that opening into branding and marketing and that kind of stuff. So it did give me a lot of good. And the corporate world obviously they focus a lot on self-development as well, wanted to motivate their field force and their teams, and teamwork and leadership and all those kind of qualities as well, which kind of gave me that really good skill set. I think I always had this entrepreneurial flair, or just always wanted to. I felt a little bit trapped in the corporate world, really, that I couldn't really express my true opinions on things. I had to sort of fit in a little box and tick those KPIs to get the sales, really. So yeah, I always there was lots of redundancies happening. My kind of claim to fame, and it'll give away the company that I worked for, was that I was the Viagra rep, and I won Viagra rep of the year. So I obviously made a lot of men happy that year. But heading up such a, I suppose, a well-known brand, again, was really, really good experience as well. And yeah, I just, redundancies were happening and I was hoping I was going to get made redundant, but I was not being big headed, but I was a pretty successful, member of the team. And the first lot of redundancies I didn't, so that I kind of strategically, because I knew that people were getting really good lump sums of money for the redundancy, and I'd already planned, because my wake up call, sorry, rewind a little step, was that when I had my first son, it kind of opened my eyes up to the fact that I wasn't really happy going away on conference when I had him. I wanted to spend more time with him, and I had this kind of, I've always had entrepreneurial ideas, but never done anything about it. And my dad has always been a big influence on me, and he ran his own business. So, but I thought it'd be great if I don't want to have worked for so long and I want to just walk away. It'd be great to have like a lump sum to help me. So the second round of redundancies, I got made redundant, and I was probably one of the few people that was really pleased about it. I remember a lot of people were really upset, and I was like, "Yay, I'm out!" Yeah. So I then decided I was going to set up my own online business, but I didn't really know what I was doing, and so made quite a few mistakes along the way, and a lot of hard mistakes really, because I hadn't quite got my target market or niche worked out. Initially, I decided I wanted to help other mums in my situation who maybe ran a business but didn't have that sales and marketing that I had. That's how I could help them. But I was targeting a lot of mums that maybe weren't that ambitious. So what I mean by that is that I think it's difficult sometimes being a woman when you have children, because you have that challenge of you want it all. You want your career, you want to kind of be, you want your own independence, your own income, and you also want to be a great mum. And then it also depends on your partner's support and income for the family and that kind of thing. And a lot of mums actually, go part-time, don't they? Or they sort of sacrifice their career for their children. And that's this kind of like weighing scale that you're kind of working out. And so there's a lot of women that tend to do like multi-level marketing type businesses that actually don't generate them that much income. And I'm not kind of trying to diss those types of businesses, because I think there's some really successful people in those type of businesses as well. And I think there's some great skill sets you can get from those type of businesses. But I think it takes longer than they perceive it does to actually generate a significant income. So a lot of people that I was targeting were maybe doing like Avon reps and that type of thing. And really what I should have done way back then was target people who were running their own businesses, who really needed that sales. They couldn't afford my services, basically. I kind of got lost along the way on that initial business that I was trying to do, because all I actually wanted to do was help women who were running businesses with sales and marketing. So I kind of messed up really at that point, but I was always great at Facebook marketing. That was kind of like my little thing that I was known for. So I then just decided to kind of niche within a niche, and I was being too general with my target audience, and I was being too general with my offering. So I decided then to really focus on Facebook and Facebook marketing, because I'd invested in a lot on myself, more around digital marketing skills and strategies. So I kind of wanted to help others with that. So I then decided to forget the mum thing as my target market and just focus purely on helping people with Facebook marketing and manage their Facebook advertising campaigns. So different small businesses like restaurant owners, I had a chiropractor that I was helping. And then I also set up a program where I was teaching Facebook marketing as well. So it was way back when everyone was focusing on fan pages, when the algorithm was a lot different than it is now. And then also Facebook advertising, and that gave me a massive learning into the fact that I'd really niched down and knew who I was targeting. I'd also had a clear offering of what I was doing, because when I'd first been made redundant, I was being very wide. You know how we've all done that, where we've got an offering, or we've got a service, or we've got a product to sell, and actually we think, oh, well, everybody will want it. But it's helped me now when I'm sort of teaching or coaching people to say you've really got to get clear on who your niche is and who your target market is before you set off on your way, really, because if you don't get that right, you'll have problems. And then obviously making sure your offering's right as well. So yeah, I got lots of experience on that, and then I stumbled across Amazon. And I think I secretly wanted my own little drugstore. So I went into supplements. I was selling supplements because I thought, hey, this is great. I'd always been put off by physical products because I thought I wanted this laptop lifestyle. It was just me. I didn't want to have, I knew people who, sold on eBay, but I thought to scale, you must need a warehouse. I remember just listening to an Amazon FBA webinar and thought, wow, I was really it really excited me and thought, great. So that was around 2013. I got involved in Amazon and set up, sold supplements. I had 3 or 4 supplements that I was selling in the US market. But of course, anybody that sells on Amazon will know that supplements is very competitive, and it soon became that way where I was spending a lot on Amazon PPC. So I started then to evolve into other markets, really, like beauty and health and personal care still, and home and kitchen, and lots of different toys and tech gadgets and that kind of thing. So I've done lots of different products and niches over the years, and different joint ventures with different people as well. And then I've sort of gradually it's kind of evolved, really, that I've then helped people who want to start their own e-commerce business, and sell products through Amazon Marketplace or other marketplaces and create a brand of physical products online. But more recently, I've kind of gone back to where I started and thought a lot of people probably will be like me, where they are a mum and they do want it all, and kind of have, just especially within this COVID situation, have skill sets or have like an idea or a passion they want to take online. So I'm working on a program at the moment, which is all around that. If you've got an idea, how do you actually find, how do you actually get it online? How do you sell a service, or um, have your skill set? How do you become a VA, for instance? Or how do you actually, if you're a teacher and you want to take that onto online tutoring, or maybe you've just got some products, or you've got an idea of products, whatever it is you can sell on Amazon. So whether it's a service base or an information, or it's your skill set, or you've got physical products that you want to do, how do you create an online business and how do you make it happen? So I've kind of got in one big full circle, really, and now have, I suppose, all the experience of what I've done over the years to help people. But I've kind of done all this with a lot of challenges along the way, throughout this whole journey of me since 2011, when I was made redundant. I got divorced and left a very, very scary and abusive and violent relationship. But I'm still here. I survived that. I'm still here to this day. And I feel that I'm trying to make a meaning of all that pain and suffering, really. And I want to inspire others that no matter what adversity you have, because we all have them, whatever life throws our way, that you can get through it and you can actually be successful. Yeah, that's kind of like my mission. It's become more meaningful now as well. Rather than in the first place, it was just about working from home around my kids.
Well, it sounds like everything that you've done, it's all about helping people. Right back, if I understand, like right back at the very beginning when you were going to help people with HIV, and then going into as a pharmaceutical rep, and you said it, you helped a lot of men, and then, and then everything you've done. So I'm curious, was there some driving force that got you to the point where you just wanted to help people, or is this something you've always been keen on?
I think I've just been really always curious about people. I love different characters and different cultures and just the differences we all have. People I could never do anything that didn't involve people. Whereas some people, are a bit more, I suppose, introverted and just want to just focus on things. Or I just love people, I suppose.
So you were talking about going to conferences, and most people don't think of it, or most men don't think about it. But being the superwoman, you're taking care of your family, taking care of your business. There's also a guilt factor because like you mentioned, you're going off to these conferences and you're not seeing the kids. And what can you say to other people out there that can kind of get you through that? It's tough.
Because now if I go to like when we do a China trip with members, with an Amazon program that I'm doing, or there might be a speaking event that I want to go to. I suppose my children are older now, so I spend so much time with them because I changed my whole life for them, really, so I could be that mum that was there picking them up at school. And in fact, I laughed recently because my youngest was like, "I don't want you to pick me up. I want to go to the after school club. That's where everybody goes." I was like, "Hold on, I've changed my whole life, but because everybody else hasn't changed their own life, I'm getting punished for it." But yeah, I think it's about balance. That's the thing. It's about having that balance, that when you do go on a conference or you do go away, that you don't feel guilty, because in your mind, you know the amount of quality time that you've had. And I think before, I wasn't having that quality time because I was in the corporate world, and also my children were very young as well. So they needed me more. And so I hadn't got that balance. And it's really important to have that balance, because the boys respect that now, that, oh yeah, mum's going on that work thing. And if it's China, they're more giving me a list of all the things that they want me to buy for them to bring back. So it's more about, they just know that I'm going to be doing that, and they're quite proud of me for doing it, type of thing, because I take them away to really cool places, or I have balance of the time that they spend with me, really.
So back in the corporate world, were the hours crazy?
Yeah, because you had a lot of admin stuff that wasn't really recognised for timing wise, and if you were away from home, there wasn't any financial incentive to do that, really. You could never really, I mean, running your own business, sometimes you can't switch off, but it's for yourself, isn't it? When it's for somebody else, it becomes, yeah, it's just all about targets, hitting the targets so you can get your bonus as well.
When you switched over to from the corporate world over to the entrepreneurial world, did you notice that your hours were able to change?
Not straight away. Obviously, I could still choose what hours I was working, but at the beginning, I was wanting to put more hours in because I was excited and I was spending a lot of time trying to make it happen, make it successful. And I think I've always been a little bit of a workaholic, really. So it's important, I think, to really put in time for yourself. And what I mean by that is actually in your calendar. We always plan out all our work stuff, but I don't see many people actually put in their diaries stuff that's for them or stuff for their family, because it's like all that other stuff will fit around the work. But what then tends to happen is you don't really have any other time to do all those other things.
Right.
So it's really important to make sure that, if you look at my diary, it looks a bit funny sometimes because it's got like, an hour that's me time. That I'll make sure that I do something for me, or it might be that I'm planning to take them to a park or whatever, and I'll put it actually in my diary, because if I don't put it in, it's not going to happen. And it's important to make sure that you get that balance by putting it in your diary, because it's part of your life, isn't it, rather than just having your work life that you plan for and then the other stuff fits around.
Yeah, I hear a lot of very successful people do that. If they're going to take a walk, they put it in their diary. If they're going to, like you said, just do something, it's in the diary, and then that way they can make it an appointment and they actually do it.
Do it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
That's the thing. It's making sure you do it.
Anna, do you have any tips for recharging? Because, having to run the family and do everything in business, I mean, it's got to be tough to actually find time to rest properly within all that,
Yeah,
if that even
definitely.
exists.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, I'm quite open about all the trauma that I've been through. And the reason I am is that I know sometimes it's not uncomfortable for me, but sometimes it's uncomfortable for people listening to it. So some of the listeners might not like it, unfortunately, but it's healing for me. And it's kind of like taboo subjects sometimes. I've seen that, oh, we can't talk about that because it makes people feel uncomfortable. It's probably a little bit like the whole Black Lives Matter stuff, which I'm sure we don't want to bring all that into this, but it's uncomfortable, isn't it, for people? So people avoid it. So I've realised domestic abuse and domestic violence is uncomfortable for people to hear because it's a taboo subject. But I used to really hide this because I was ashamed and I was scared, and it's like 2020, I've just had this like fuel of energy that I'm like, I'm going to be proud of it, because it's what's made me who I am today. And it links into your question, because recharging, I had to really focus on some time for me, because mentally, you know, I'm on 31 court hearings at present, and it's still not finished. That your subconscious, when you're stressed or got anxiety, works overtime. So I really had to put some things in place to make sure that I was winding down on an evening and getting sleep, because I wasn't sleeping a lot. And like you say, recharging. And I think without, you know, regardless of what, if you've had, like, I suppose, a normal life and you haven't had all the the things I've been through, you've still got to do that. You've still got to make sure that you recharge. And it's personal to you, really, because I've done a lot of meditating, which I used to laugh at people. I've got to be open. I used to think it was all a bit woo-woo. And I was like, meditation? What? Yeah, I used to think you were crossing your legs and going humming and all this kind of thing. But actually, I'd listened to some guided meditation because I wasn't sleeping. And now I just have meditation time daily, even if it's just for 10 minutes. Because currently, you know, schools are not open, so I'm juggling time, don't always have everything to fit in. But even if you just got 10 minutes a day of it's just being mindful in that moment, really. And I've learned by different techniques of, you know, things come in your mind and you just shoo them away, and just having just 10 minutes of thinking of nothing can really reset and really recharge me. But for a while, I used to do things like, because being a single parent with 2 boys is exhausting, just making sure that an hour every evening, winding down bedtime, I'd run a bath, play some chill out tunes. I have things like, you know, essential oils and things like that, just to help me wind down. I think music can be really relaxing, because music can really affect us, can't it? It can really affect us if we're going through something emotional. It can make us cry. It can make us really happy and motivated. So music is really good to help recharge the batteries as well, really.
I would be interested, if you're okay with it, to kind of go down that path and find out more about the trouble that you went through. Like, as
Yeah.
a mom in this physical abuse, I mean, can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's strange, because I felt like I married the love of my life, and everything, you know, people used to look at us and think we were like the perfect couple, because we used to hold different parties at our house, and people used to joke about us being posh and becks, funnily enough. And I look back on that now, I think actually it's just a little bit of a farce, I suppose. Even though I think I had still had the best day of my life when I got on my wedding day. I can still say that it was an amazing day. It was after I got made redundant, because I was the breadwinner. And I remember the day that I told him that I was made redundant, that, you know, you kind of get to know someone a little bit better, that you did. But you think you always got different. You never meet someone exactly the same as you, but, you know, you're always going to have debates and arguments about different things. But now looking back, I can see the red flags, if you know what I mean. But at the time, I didn't. But when I got made redundant, I was the breadwinner, and I remember his face being really shocked and really disappointed. And all I had been going on about for the last 12 months was how I wanted to run my own business. So it felt like, you haven't got my back, you know. Um, and I think really it was because he was thinking, oh my God, I'm going to have to pull my finger out now, because he'd been pretty lazy, to be honest, and and not really been working that. He ran his own sort of DIY business, and entertainment business, and I was all sort of like, I was the breadwinner, so I paid for. I had a really good income, so the pressure wasn't on him, I suppose. And so I think he was thinking, "Oh my God, the pressure's going to be on me." But it sounds weird me bringing that up, but I think that was just like, I realised then that he hadn't got my back, and that now when I look back on that, I think that maybe he was, you know, he was using me, really. I don't know. Just I really read into that face when I told him that I was made redundant, and things. Then I started pressurizing him to get organised in his business, and provide the family with an income and a better income. So he was getting a lot of pressure from that point, because even though I had this great lump sum, I wanted to do something with that money. You know, I didn't want to just live off it. And then this thing, it was from that point, things just started to downward spiral. And it was, as I say, initially it was financial worries, I suppose, or discussions and arguments and that kind of thing. And then I found out he was having an affair, and then it just literally seemed like overnight. It wasn't overnight, it was over a couple of years, but it did literally just seem like I didn't know this person anymore, probably because he betrayed me and there's all these different things. And then he started heavily getting into spiritualism, which I've got nothing wrong with spiritualism. I feel like I'm quite spiritual, but it was, for me, it was like devil worshipping, you know. And it became quite scary because I was the devil and he needed to save me. And so there was like, I was worried about his mental health at this point. I found out he was taking a lot of cocaine, which really, really shocked me and surprised me. So I was really scared and I was tiptoeing around, and just couldn't find, I'm a solution person. So all the time I was trying to find a solution. And my soul was practically dying in that house, really. And yeah, some horrendous things happened. Violence, a lot of, I realized I was being mentally, emotionally abused, sexually abused, just everything. It was just burning my clothes, just all these different things, when I said that it was over, really, and that we needed to find a solution for our children to make the future work. And it just got really, really bad to the point where I had to leave in the end. I tried to get him out, but I had to leave, while I still tried to kind of run my business. I remember running my business at one point in my car with one of those old dongle things that you used to have that you could log on to that was 3G. I look back on that now and think, God, I don't know how I was doing it. But it was my business that was saving me, because that, I think if I hadn't had that, I might have just given up, really. Do you know what I mean? Because it gave me that focus that I didn't want to let people down. And that was while I was doing like the Facebook marketing stuff and moving on to do my own Amazon stuff, really. But since I've been free of that, my business has excelled, and I always knew it would do. I knew all of this was holding me back. There was a lot of emotional stuff that strips you away. I think I've always been a strong person, so a lot of my friends saw me as a strong person and didn't realize what was actually happening to me. And that's why I hid it as well, because I thought, this can't be happening to me. I'm a really strong woman. And that only happens to not strong women, when actually it can happen to anybody. So yeah, it was just a scary, scary time, but I managed to get out. And actually I didn't need to, because I always had my financial independence, which I was very grateful for. I was able to then, get myself a place and kind of start again, really. I didn't need to kind of go into a refuge or, something like that.
Right.
Which that was what was keeping me together. And it was actually gratitude that kept me going. Which I know we see a lot, don't we, nowadays online with self-development. Everyone talks about being grateful and gratitude. But I literally just used to wake up in the morning and take a breath and think, right, it was things like, my boys are healthy. I was living in this hell that I couldn't see a way out of, and I was trying to get a solution for, and every day just seemed like hell, so it was just focusing on small things that I was grateful for that got me through. But now I look back and I think, the normal things that happen to you in life, like your car breaks down, or you're selling a house and it all falls through and the buyer pulls out, and things that used to really get me down just don't bother me now. So that's the good thing of all the stuff that I've been through, that it kind of makes you evaluate a lot of stuff in your life. And I realize that there's always a, way through everything, really. I think even what's happened with the lockdown, I was very grateful that I run an online business, so it wasn't affecting me massively. But I thought, God, I've been self-isolating for years. What's the problem? I think, just looking at things from there's always a different perception. You can have a really down day or be in a really bad place, but that tomorrow you could look at it in a totally different way, and we've all done that.
Right.
We can just look at things in a different way. And for people that have gone through or are going through domestic abuse and maybe hiding it, there is a lot of support out there. And I'm now working for a charity called the Buddy Bag Foundation that help women and children who need a refuge, because I really want to give back to people that are kind of going through that kind of hell themselves, really. Yeah, it was a horrific time, but it was definitely, I think you've got to have a focus. It was my work that was keeping me going throughout it, really.
A lot of entrepreneurs will go out there and they'll face something and they won't sleep, they'll get ulcers, and then they'll find out that, you know, month, a year, 5 years, 10 years later, what they were worrying about, it just kind of rolls off their shoulder now. But you know, going through what you've gone through, so yeah, if all of a sudden you're stuck in your house and you have your computer and you're in lockdown, it's a hell of a lot easier than what you went through.
I think there's lots of emotions with it, because I think just having a marriage breakdown is bad enough, isn't it? Moving house is kind of quite traumatic, not traumatic, but it's all change, isn't it? And everything else on top of that was, I did definitely feel like my soul was dying. I had to make I was forced to make a change. Can't explain it, but it's just fueled me this last sort of year, 12 months really, to share my story, which I'm quite surprised myself really, because I don't normally share personal things, but I realized I was being fake, I think, and also that it could help a lot of people. And it was because people that I was sharing it with, who were supposed to like close acquaintances in work, were like, wow, So that's kind of given me the fuel to actually, let's find a meaning in all this pain and trauma that I've been through, that it can just actually motivate someone, that maybe that, like maybe someone that I'm a client of mine that I'm helping, student that I'm helping with Amazon, if they're getting, they get not back on getting ungated in a certain category, they're getting all frustrated and want to give up. I think by having my support, they probably feel a little bit guilty. Well, she's been through all that, she's still going. It just gives them that motivation to keep on going, because you can't control what happens to you. There's always a solution, and you can always find a way.
And it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, if you're going through this sort of you know, problem, conflict, you've got to do something about it. And I am definitely not that counselor, but I've seen a lot of this, and you've got to take those first steps. And I know we're going into a subject that we weren't planning on going into, but if somebody is experiencing this right now, I know you said go and reach out. Some people might not have the resources to do that. They might not have any money. They might have a little bit of money. They might not have the means to, just get away from a husband or a wife that's abusive. What's something that they can do?
There are a lot of charities out there, and obviously depending on where you're geographically located, it will be slightly different. In the UK, we've got Women's Aid and there's the National Centre for Domestic Violence. I actually didn't go to those straight away, because I think there is a pride thing, you know. But maybe I think the one thing is, I went in a cycle where I kept questioning myself, because there was, now looking back, there was a lot of mental, and I think a lot of men that have gone through it as well, like abusive relationships from a woman, will know there's a lot of emotional and mental psychology that goes with it. So you keep questioning yourself. But if you keep getting back, if your gut keeps getting back to that point, you've got to get out, because you get gut instincts on things, don't you? I think,
Right.
and you get to that point where you got to get out. So that confide in a friend. Don't be embarrassed about. These were all the things that I felt embarrassed about. I felt like it was a weakness. I felt that my marriage failing was a weakness. I was worried about telling my parents and things like that. But you've got to just confide in someone to get out. And maybe you could stay at a friend's, or stay at your parents, or there'll be somebody that will help you to get
Right.
out, even if you haven't got, because I think there are a lot of women that are in a financial situation where they're stuck, I suppose. Luckily for me, I wasn't. But that didn't make it easy, though. It was still really, really difficult. Like I say, I've still 5 years down the line got court hearings. It's still still going on. I'm over the worst, but it's all about it's the opposite with the finances. It's all about finances for him. Even though people, I think sometimes when they hear my story, they think, "Oh, it's okay because you were financially independent." It still was really tough. You've just got to think there's always a solution. Go with your gut. Get out. Find someone, whether it's a charity or it's a friend or someone close that you can share it with, and don't keep putting it off, because there's so much more to you. Like, since I got out, it's just, I felt like I've got complete and utter freedom now in my life, to be whoever I want to be, and to grab the world with both hands and make the most of it. And now I just want to inspire the two little men that I've got that are currently gaming upstairs, who I've stolen the headphones off, to do what they want to do for the world and be who they want to be and make a difference.
Yeah.
So
You're not in it alone. Reach out, talk to a friend. Yeah, somebody will listen.
there's more people that have it. There's more people that go through it than you think. So I think don't be embarrassed, because I was really embarrassed. But when you start opening up, you realize there's more people than you thought.
So this has already got a happy ending. You're out there, you're making money. You've got rid of this guy. So what has been your big success, either in your personal life or in your business?
So I think the biggest success this year is being featured in Forbes magazine, which happened in April time, and that was all around working online as well. I was sharing. There was a few of us. There was 3 or 4, I think, of other female entrepreneurs that work online, and that goes down to who you know as well. Because I was asked through somebody I know, so it's always good to network and be a people person, because people have connections, don't they? So yeah, it was great, because Forbes have a lot of criteria about, they ask you a lot of questions, and you have to be at a certain level to be able to be featured in their magazine. So, definitely like my highest achievement in my business, really, so far to date.
That's fantastic. Forbes, that's a good one.
And I also became an author as well. That was the beginning of this year. So this year I already became an author. I feel a little bit of a cheat, because it was co-authored. There was 15 of us. We all did a chapter each. But still, I been part of a book called She Made It Happen. And there's some really inspiring stories in there. Vanessa, who lost her child I think he was at age 5, through cancer. And so a lot of people have had different adversities and turned their life around, and they've all been female entrepreneurs.
It's interesting because prior to this year, if I went to a conference, I would see mostly male speakers. Although there were incredible female entrepreneurs that were just killing it on Amazon, who had incredible service businesses, they were always in the audience. And, you just never saw them. And then Melissa Simonson started, and this is the one that I know of, but the Empowery Women's Conference. And I went to that, and it was fantastic. And, the whole room was made up of really incredible entrepreneurs. And now Danny McMillan, he just finished his
branded by women.
Branded by women.
Me and myself and Sylv were part of that.
Yeah, so it's fantastic. And now I'm hearing about another event that's coming up. So finally, and now it's not so much just the women and the men, just have a bloody mix. When you go to, some of these larger events, come on, guys, let's make it, 5 men, 5 women, or, just have more representation, because it's always the minority. And it really kind of sucks, because there's so many. You have to say, like in 2020, why don't we see more women on stage? And Melissa's always said that, she never felt herself being a real entrepreneur. And it took her a long time to say that she was an independent, like successful entrepreneur. And I never really thought of that until she told me about this. But it's great to see finally this, at least in the Amazon world, it's growing. There's a movement growing to actually see women on stage.
Definitely, yeah. And I think it's like me in my early days when I was trying to set up the mum part, helping mums in business, and it was a bit wishy-washy. It didn't really work out, and I kept calling myself a mumpreneur. And I know a lot of women entrepreneurs that we debate about this subject, this title, and they don't like it. And I think, I agree now, even though I was calling myself a mumpreneur, that you're an entrepreneur at the end of the day.
Right.
So why are you saying you're a mumpreneur or a female entrepreneur?
Right.
It's like you're an entrepreneur. So I think it is good to see more female speakers, and I think it's just going to become more and more and more. So there's been some really good events, like you say, the Branded by Women event. And I've seen Melissa's Empowery one. I need to do a little bit more digging and find a bit more about it. But I have seen it. Be great to get involved in something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Last weekend we had Andrea Lake on, and talk about an entrepreneur. She was running 14 businesses all at one time. I won't get into it, but it's going to be an incredible podcast. But you want to talk about somebody that's really inspiring? Oh my gosh. So what is a quote that you live by?
So I think it's definitely happiness is what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony. Because there's been a lot of times in my life where I've thought about you think about and you say certain things but you don't do. And that is only the difference between not success and success to me, or and success I mean by happiness. Because for me, I don't just see success as being financial or, success in my business. Happiness for me is like everything is in harmony, my work-life balance, my children are happy, I'm having enough time to do all the things that I love. But a lot of the time we think it, don't we? And we might say this is what we're going to do, but it's the action takers or the doing that completes it all really and makes happiness or success all in harmony.
You've got this really incredible quote. And for people to live that quote, there's so many people that think just negatively. They wake up and they don't think positively. Is there anything that you can say to people to try to get online with that quote?
I think everybody has dreams that they want to do, but
Mhm.
it's their belief that stops them doing those dreams or taking action towards those dreams. So it's a difficult question, because you've got to just have the belief. So if you haven't got the belief, you've got to find a way to get that belief. And actually, who cares if you make a mistake or who cares if it fails? I failed loads of stuff, but it's keep having that goal of where I want to get to and what I want to do. And I think a lot of people don't take the action. I'm surprised at how many people have bought my programs over the years and not done anything. There's so many people that buy things because they think that's going to do it, but actually you've got to do the work. And it's not that hard to do the work, because if something doesn't work, you make a mistake, you find a way of, there's so much things on the internet of finding how to do things these days. Don't overcomplicate it. Just, have a couple of things on your to-do list a day.
Right.
So I think it's the belief. So if you haven't got the belief for whatever reason, maybe your upbringing, or you have never done anything that's entrepreneurial and you really want to go for it, you've got to work on your mindset and your belief. And again, there's so many things online that can help you and people you can follow that can help you do that.
And it's funny that you said that, because I've got a buddy who has one of the larger Amazon training courses. And it's between $3,000 and $5,000. And you can tell if somebody's logged in. And he says, for the most part, the first chapter, and there's usually 15 or so modules, but many people, the high majority of people, don't even log in.
I know.
Isn't that wild?
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I've had it. My first program, what I used to do, because I knew there wasn't going to be many people that would sign up. My first webinar, I used to phone the people because I thought I'd give a personal touch and welcome them, and also discuss what we wanted to get out of the program. So then along the way, if I saw them like in the Facebook group, I understood where they were coming from. I could help them reach their goal. A lot of people didn't even get back to me on the phone call. That's just really, over the years, the different programs it's so shocking. But I think we see it as we want to buy something, don't we, in a shop, and by buying a Facebook marketing or Amazon program, we've created that business. But people don't want to do the work, and you've got to do the work. You've got to take action.
Right. You can have all the intentions in the world, but if you don't take action, nothing's going to happen.
Exactly.
You'll just be out of pocket. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's everything in your life, isn't it? Whether it's being healthy, we've all done that. And I'm not saying this because I'm perfect. I always take action and everything. I've learned along the way that there's been gyms that I've paid for membership and not turned up. So that's similar to the program thing. I bought the gym membership because I want to get healthy. So that's what I've just learned along the way. And it's the same with all the trauma that I've been through. If I didn't take action to get out of that and save myself, I'd still be in there.
Right.
with the the excuses or the belief that I couldn't get out. So it's having that belief and knowing where you want to get to, and keep make a mistake, learn from it, move forward, but keep taking action. If you don't take action, you're still going to get what you've always had.
That's what I love about successful entrepreneurs. They have taken action. They're not the people who do have a lot of intentions. They go to events, they study during the day, or I like to at least go online and for at least half hour to an hour try to find something kind of new in my industry. But anyways, they're all action oriented, and if you talk to them, I mean, the quality of work that they're doing, the dreams that they have, and their thought patterns are very similar. One of the things we never touched on really was what you're doing right now. We briefly went over it, but let's go back and talk about, what are you doing right now?
So I run my own Amazon program called Six Figure Amazon Sellers, and I also have that's a long-term program. It's a coaching program that actually people keep saying I should do it for 12 months, but it's just an open-ended thing. There's a weekly coaching call that goes along with it. So it's for people who want, that long-term coaching. But I also I do a kind of like a 4-week Amazon 101 taster workshop, kind of 4-week program course as well, which was meant to be originally offline. And I've done online because I never used to do those kind of things. But everybody was asking me in the group, we do a workshop? So I just, all right, we'll do a workshop offline. I'll come out of my online world. And then COVID happened. It turned into a 4-week online course. So I was like, I should have gone with my gut. I knew I shouldn't be doing offline stuff. But I'm also part of a program called Import Experts, which is a joint venture that I've got with a guy called Stuart Ross and Jay Kubizak, who are big digital entrepreneurs. And they do lots of different digital education programs, from Facebook marketing and online branding. They've got a program called Brand Incubator, and it was nice because I originally, when I first was made redundant, invested in one of their programs, so connected with those guys and just kept in touch with them over the years. And then I joined with a guy who was doing eBay training and coaching. Because we used to do products together. We'd import a product, he would sell it on eBay, I'd sell it on Amazon. And so we then started doing coaching together. So that's how I kind of got involved with Import Experts. So I do a lot of mentoring around Import Experts as well, and run webinars and that kind of thing. But I've got a new program that I'm launching, which is on the back of my book, She Made It Happen, and it's called Make Shit Happen. When I advertise it, I'd star out the eye, because I feel like I shouldn't be swearing on my marketing material. But it's around what I was discussing earlier about if you sat there and you've got an idea of an online business, whether it be a physical product business or it's actually you've got a skill set or information you want to sell online. And it's kind of everything that I've learned along the way, really, because I've done, been different parts of my path and journey. And so, how, I can help you make it happen, or make shit happen, as I say. Because like we just said, it's the difference between taking action, isn't it? And it's having those goals and having the plans that's going to help you start an online business in the first place. And then on top of that, like you with this podcast, I haven't launched it yet because I've been outsourcing, getting people to help me with it, and I've had a few problems, what should I say, along the way. So I've recorded 6 episodes now, and I'm really keen to get it out because there's been a couple of them that if I don't get it out, it's going to sound dated. So I'm hoping that over the next week, I now have a podcast manager, and the podcast is Your Freedom Podcast. And I have a Facebook group called Your Freedom Project. And in a way, it's similar to this podcast in respect that, when you're interviewing people who've got stories, but I'm mainly focused on people who've had, some kind of adversity that's happened, and just hearing how they've created freedom in their life and how they've actually got through that whole difficult time, really focusing on the 3 things which are love, money and mind. Because I think, going back to my happiness quote, that to have that equilibrium and to have that every happiness in the world, you need to be happy in love, whether that be love for other people, self-love and self-care. You need to have financial freedom, so money, so love money, and then also have the right mindset and the free mindset to be able to be the best person that you can be, and to be strong-minded, really, and to be able to cope with anything that happens in your life as well. So yeah, that's what Your Freedom podcast is all about.
You've been busy.
But I'm over my target, because this podcast should have been launched weeks ago, but it's the way of the world, and I won't give up, and I will make it happen.
So kind of like, just like the COVID, which was, I guess, back in March. So from March until now, I think we can predict that there's going to be a baby boom,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
along with that baby boom, I guarantee you that there's going to be a podcast boom.
Boom.
You think so?
There definitely is already. Yeah, definitely. In fact, someone who was telling me there was a baby boom, I was saying there's also going to be a single parent boom.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I agree there. Yeah. Oh,
But yeah, you're right with the podcast. I think there's so many different podcasts starting already. I've seen so many different ones, which is great, but it's becoming the thing through the COVID. I think that people are launching podcasts alongside their business, or for whatever means.
we're getting down to the end of the podcast, and if somebody would like to get in touch with you, what's the best way to contact you?
So I think really on the socials. So I have a few Facebook groups that can help people get started, that, like free groups they can get involved with, that are linked to my Facebook profile. So if you just find me, Anna Davidson, and the same with Instagram as well. Although on Instagram, I'm the Anna Davidson, because there were so many different Anna Davidsons. So I had to come up with a way of being the one. So yeah, I think the best way is to connect on the socials, really, on Instagram and Facebook, the main ones I'm on.
Okay, fantastic. And the book was called
She Made It Happen.
Your new podcast?
Your Freedom Podcast.
Perfect.
Brilliant.
So now at the end of every one of our episodes, we have a question. And that question is, do you know a guy?
Yeah, I do know. I know a guy called Steve Beatty, who he set up a group actually called, or is it a Facebook page called Unspoken Wounds. He's got an incredible story. He fought in Iraq, saw some incredible stuff, and has set up is on a mission to help people with their mental health, really.
Oh,
So yeah, he's just got an incredible story. So he'd be great on here.
fantastic. Well, Anna, I look forward to commenting on your Instagram.
Same here. No, thanks for having me on. It's been great. I love it.
No, this is super. And just going back to the reason why we set this up is to really get to know people. And now, I know we kind of know each other, on Instagram, but it's so cool being able to get to know you.
Yeah, great. I've really enjoyed it. I've loved talking to you today, and look forward to connecting with you more in the future on Instagram, of course, but in any other way. It's always great to get to know people better, and I feel like you've got to know me a little bit better today. So thanks for inviting me.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thanks.
Hey guys and gals, thanks for listening. For more great content, please like, subscribe, and follow I Know This Guy on all social media platforms. I Know This Guy relies on listeners like you. Please visit our Patreon page to find out how you can help.